Chapter 741, 741 Fusion of the Kirin Fossil, 5. 741 Fusion of the Kirin Fossil, 5. Named Wind Blessing. Introduction. It's a super skill of the wind, time, and space elements. It uses the wind of nature to increase luck. Without this skill, could it still be called a wind Kirin? Ling was not sad at all. Its voice was still filled with joy. This skill is different from turning misfortune into luck and the wind spirit bead. It's extremely difficult to fuse. I can feel that I can't control this skill at the moment, but it can still awaken at any time. This is a quasi-divine skill, the prototype of a divine skill. It's a talent skill inherited from its mythical parents. Wind Blessing, a quasi-divine skill. Shiyu, 11, Buggy, Kai Tong, Susu, and Baby Ginseng suddenly opened their mouths wide. After communicating with Senior Ji Mengzhu, they naturally knew how impressive quasi-divine skills and prototype divine skills were. As long as he mastered this, it wouldn't be too much to say that it was a mythical race. Wind Blessing was a quasi-divine skill? It wasn't as simple as an ordinary super skill? It's all right, Master. Don't forget, we still have the mythical revivals skill, Ling quickly reminded. Ling's reminder immediately made Shiyu react and look at it. Skill, Mythical Revival. Introduction. It's a super special skill. It can awaken the divine power sleeping in creatures. Status, Teachable. Cooldown time, 42 hours. He could teach Mythical Revival too. You mean, Shiyu reacted and understood that the current Ling undoubtedly had the power of a god sleeping in its body. If he taught Ling this skill, even if the Wind Blessing was a divine skill and it couldn't control it with its current fusion speed, as the proficiency of the Mythical Revival skill increased, it would be able to master the Wind Blessing sooner or later. So that was the case. As expected of a top-notch intelligence, it was smart. Shiyu was originally annoyed that Ling couldn't awaken the Wind Blessing, but when he heard that the Wind Blessing might be a quasi-divine skill and that it could be awakened through the Mythical Revival skill, he was instantly excited. It was awesome. This way, Ling might be the first pet in the team to master a quasi-divine skill? The first was to become a pet of a mythical race? Perhaps not. Shiyu fell into deep thought. If awakening the Wind Blessing had too high a requirement for the skill proficiency of Mythical Revival, it would be difficult. Forget it, today was a happy day anyway. Woo! 11 and the others also asked. Apart from awakening 2 new racial skills, were there any other changes? Ling nodded proudly. Of course. If the wind elemental life form was the pet of the wind element, then the Wind Kirin was the master of the wind element. After evolution, the proficiency of its wind element control skill had even increased to nearly perfect level, thanks to the perfect affinity of its current physique with the wind. Named Ling. Race, Mechanical Life. Attributes, Machinery, Wind. Race level, High-level Overlord, Quasi-mythical. Level of growth, Monarch level. Race skill. Advanced, 100 transformations, Dao proficiency, Advanced intelligence, Dao proficiency, Mechanical space, Dao proficiency, Loading, Dao proficiency. Super level, Wind element control, Expert plus 11, Divine net, Expert plus 11, Turning misfortune into luck, Expert, Wind spirit bead, Initiate. Teaching skill. Intermediate, Super sight, Transcendent, Heart strike, Transcendent. Advanced, Clone, Transcendent, Multiplication, Transcendent, Deterrence, Transcendent, Absolute sleep, Transcendent. Super level, Mythical Revival, Unlearned. Energy points, 9 million plus. Woo! Woo! Yee! Upon hearing that Ling had changed so drastically after fusing with the Kirin form this time, 11, Buggy, and Baby Ginseng were curious. Why don't they fight? Let's fight! M.I. Ning. Kai Tong and Susu also felt that it was still manageable. Fight! Fight! No, Ling turned its head mercilessly. Its entire body directly turned into a breeze and returned to the form of the Rubik's Cube. I haven't completely evolved. The power of the Wind Kirin fossil hasn't been completely activated at all. I need to learn the true Wind Kirin form after the mythical revival. When the time comes, we'll fight. Ling rejected cleanly, not giving Susu and the others a chance. Shiyu smiled. However, after taking a look at the cooldown time, Shiyu's expression changed. Damn it! If I had known earlier, I wouldn't have wasted my energy on 11. 11? It seemed like love didn't last. Chapter 742, 742 Another Mythical Resource, 1. 742 Another Mythical Resource of 1. Ling had evolved. Next, Shiyu naturally had to study Ling's strength after evolution. This research was impressive. Shiyu realized that Ling in the form of a Wind Kirin should have the strongest speed in the team under the same level. This title originally belonged to Kai Tong, but now, it was directly snatched away by Ling. Of course, this referred to the movement speed on land and in the sky. If it was in the sea, Susu would definitely be better. This made Shiyu feel that he might be able to abandon Buggy and use Ling as a transportation tool. After all, Buggy's instant transmission was driving and stopping, and intermittent. It was easy to get carsick. Moreover, the consumption of instant transmission was not small. Every time Buggy finished using it, it would complain that it was tired, making it look like he was squeezing Buggy dry. Unlike Ling, who could directly use natural wind as an energy source to continue and fly at a high speed. It was energy efficient, environmentally friendly, stable, and fast. Ling, quickly study the form of the Kirin fighter plane. We'll fly the plane ourselves when we go to Tingxiang this time. As for mechas, they were too conspicuous. They were easy targets to take a beating, and their speed might not be faster than the fighter plane form. He wanted Ling to show off its plane speed in the sky. It would be pretty fast. Upon hearing Shiyu's suggestion, 11 and the others communicated solemnly. Buggy heaved a sigh of relief. As long as it didn't teleport. Wu, Ling frowned. Although it wasn't impossible, it was a perfectionist. Spending time researching the form of a fighter jet would waste a lot of time. However, it still had to continue researching the Kirin form and the fusion mecha. Ling quickly said, "Why don't we go by sea? Let's enter Susu's infinite space and let it bring us over." Including the strengthening of the time fruit, Susu's speed should be faster than mine. Most importantly, safety. The commotion of me flying in the air will be very big, but if Susu shrinks and travels in the ocean, no one can sense it. Back then, the tyrannical sea legend had let Shiyu and the others enter the giant Leviathan's infinite space and head to Dragon Palace City. Compared to the huge formation of the giant Leviathan, Susu, who could multiply to the maximum level, was naturally invincible in the vast sea. If it wanted to hide, ordinary totems probably couldn't find it. Ning. When Susu heard Ling's suggestion, it widened its eyes and shook its head. Tingxiang was so far away. It would be exhausted along the way. All right, then let's go by sea. Before we go to Tingxiang, I happen to want to take a look at Dragon Palace City, Shiyu said. Susu, QAQ? Shiyu continued to study it. It was extremely novel. He even rode the Kirin Phantom a few times. The so-called Kirin was Qi Ling. In the flying state, although it was very fast, it gave Shiyu a very comfortable feeling. There was no discomfort from the wind pressure. Of course, they also kept experimenting around Ling's new Wind Spirit Bead skill. This move was very interesting. Ling condensed into a high-speed spinning wind ball. It had a strong tearing and devouring effect. Throwing it out directly could also cause huge destructive power, like a compressed typhoon. However, what was even more magical was that 11's White Thunder, Kai Tong's Sun Flame, Susu's Wave Cannon, and Buggy's Imagination Power could all be integrated into the Wind Spirit Bead, dyeing the Wind Spirit Bead with new attribute colors and increasing its power greatly. It could be said that the Wind Spirit Bead was a perfect combination skill template. Unfortunately, the current entry-level Wind Spirit Bead could only fuse and spread one power, but after its level was high, it should be able to fuse the power of 11, Susu, Buggy, Kai Tong, and baby Ginseng to strengthen and become stronger. This was also why Ling said that the Wind Spirit Bead skill was very likely to be the key skill of the fusion mecha. When the proficiency of this skill was high, with the Wind Spirit Bead as the core of the mecha, it could indeed maximize the power of all pets. Although the Wind Spirit Bead's increase in a single attribute was not as powerful as Kai Tong's interlocking sword, it could not withstand its small load and high accommodation. It was more suitable for mechanics. After all, injuries to mechanics were really fatal. Even baby Ginseng didn't have good treatment methods for Ling. The healing effect of the Ginseng baby was the most obvious for 11, Buggy, and Shiyu, but the effect on Susu, Kai Tong, and Ling gradually decreased. Fortunately, the three sisters also had their own healing skills. With this torment, Shiyu worked from noon to night. When he thought of the meal with his senior, he hurriedly came out of the ruined space. Now, he couldn't teach Ling mythical revival. He could only wait for tomorrow. Before coming, he had taught 11 skills and wasted a lot of physical strength through strengthening in the Battle of Buggy. There was still time. "Senior, where are you?" After coming out, Shiyu called Lu Qingyi and called her. "Where are we going to eat tonight?" Shiyu touched his stomach. He was already hungry. However, on the other side of the phone, Lu Qingyi didn't immediately reply to Shiyu about eating. Instead, she said, "Did you just come out of the ruins?" "Yes." Shiyu nodded. "Let's wait a bit regarding the meal first. I'm with Grandpa now. There seems to be an online meeting in Bureau 11 later. President Lin called it. Let's see what it is first." "Oh? All right." Shiyu was stunned. An online meeting of Bureau 11? He had joined Bureau 11 for so long, but it seemed like he had never been in a meeting in the Bureau. Just like what Senior Lu said when she tricked him into joining the team, it was very loose and free. There were no missions at all. No. Shiyu was suddenly stunned. Didn't President Ling give him an archaeological mission to the Heavenly Fox Nation 2 months ago? Chapter 743, Another Mythical Resource, 2. 743 Another Mythical Resource, 2. Oh, that Heavenly Fox mission didn't seem to be enforced. He could choose whether to go or not. That was fine. From the looks of it, it was really quite easy. He just didn't know what it was this time. Summoning all the members of Bureau 11 in one go should be more important than the iron-eating beast Mystic Realm in the Heavenly Fox Nation. Could it be that something happened to the Yun clan's Mystic Realm? Shiyu recalled that President Lin seemed to have said that he would send archaeologists to investigate the lost race Mystic Realm that couldn't be found recently. Could something have happened here? Shiyu quickly took out his cell phone and connected to the archaeological index. It wasn't a problem to guess like this. It was better to understand through the meeting later. About half an hour later, in Bureau 11 of Donghuang, 10 official members entered the Internet conference room. At the moment, including official members and trainee members, Bureau 11 should have 12 people. However, Fang Lan, a trainee high school student, naturally wouldn't participate in such a meeting. As for the other one who was absent, Shiyu took a look at the name on the list and immediately knew what was going on. It was that senior. Shiyu had never seen this senior since he entered the Bureau. He had only heard that he had the highest overall archaeological achievements in Bureau 11. Through the ruins, just the resources alone had helped Dong Huang obtain 2 mythical resources and more than 10 legendary resources. Apart from that, he had also obtained more than 10 ruin space. If Bureau 11 had a director position, it should be him. Unfortunately, it was said that he had gone to explore a mythical ruins and had not come out for 5 years. No one knew if he was dead or alive. His name was Ji Yuyun, a legendary figure in Bureau 11 and one of the elders. Shiyu had heard a lot of his deeds, but he didn't know when he could meet him and communicate. Back then, when he entered the mythical ruins, Elder Gu's message to Bureau 11 was that if he couldn't come out, don't look for him. This person was naturally absent. Apart from that, Principal Feng, Legend Ku, Grandma Li, Dr. Chen, Senior Lu. The members of Bureau 11 were already in position. Shi Yu entered at about the same time as everyone. Among these people, Shi Yu was considered the least experienced. However, when these seniors saw the name Shi Yu, they had mixed feelings. This was because although Shi Yu had not been in the game for long, in a short period of time, his attainments in the archaeological field had far exceeded most of the seniors present. It was simply the second Ji Yun. In fact, from the momentum, he might one day surpass that guy. Everyone is here, right? After everyone entered the conference room, President Lin's figure appeared on the screen. He said, "It's been a long time since I called everyone together." "President Lin, what's the matter this time?" An old voice sounded. Shi Yu recognized that it was an old senior. He had retired even more completely than Principal Feng, mainly because his body was weak. "Yes," President Lin said. "I believe everyone already knows about the change in the World Tree. In less than 4 months, Inatella will open. Inatella, the habitat of the World Tree, also known as the Domain of the Gods. The island contains a large number of legendary ruins and mythical ruins. It's the place closest to the secret of the mythical era. Inatella, the habitat of the World Tree, also known as the Domain of the Gods. The island contains a large number of legendary ruins and mythical ruins. It's the place closest to the secret of the mythical era. Therefore, apart from sending the younger generation to participate in the world competition, the 7 countries also decided to form an archaeological team. As spectators of the world competition, they will head to Inatella and try to come into contact with the ruins that might appear in Inatella this time. If they can't come into contact, they will assist the contestants from the various countries who can come into contact with the ruins to crack it. The members of the archaeological teams are elites of the archaeological world of the 7 countries. It's to face the mythical revival and explore the vanguard of the mythical era. Dong Huang will naturally participate. As soon as President Lin finished speaking, no one in the conference room was surprised. After all, Inatella had only opened for so long. Apart from the old man who had already retired to the point where he couldn't even walk, no one present was willing to miss this opportunity to go to the world island. The archaeological team established by the various countries should be completed in the glorious kingdom of Rongguang on the eve of the world tournament. That's the closest place to Inatella. As the various countries have not communicated together for a long time, at that time, the 7-Nation Alliance will also hold an unprecedented archaeological event in the Rongguang. The theme is Totem and a Myth. Archaeologists who have new archaeological discoveries of the Totem era and a mythical era can exchange their gains in the conference. It's considered an information-sharing meeting of the countries before heading to Inatella. Generally, relatively important information won't be casually shared even between the 7 countries. Therefore, this time, the 7-Nation Alliance took out 2 mythical resources and 10 legendary resources from the Alliance's inventory as a reward. The 2 most important pieces of information will respectively obtain mythical resources. The next 10 will be getting legendary resources for the archaeological discoveries. In the Totem battle, in the nearly 200 years of history of the Alliance era, there were many battles where the 7 countries cooperated to harvest a large amount of resources. A portion of these resources had always been stored in the Alliance, shared by the 7 countries, waiting to be distributed. Chapter 744, 740 for another mythical resource, 3. 740 for another mythical resource, 3. Whichever country that made a huge contribution to the human race of the Alliance would see these resources distributed to the factions with the most results first. It was a rule jointly established by everyone at the start of the 7-Nation Alliance. Obviously, because of the World Tournament, the 7-Nation Alliance planned to take out a portion of resources as a reward and encourage the 7 countries to share important information about the mythical era and the Totem era that had been explored. So that was the case. As soon as President Lin finished speaking, everyone from Bureau 11 immediately understood the reason for his meeting. He wanted some members of Bureau 11 to represent Dong Huang to participate in this archaeological event and join the joint archaeological team of the 7 countries. Although 1 or 2 legendary resources were dispensable to Dong Huang, mythical resources were rare treasures even for the 7 countries. Just like the undying fruit Shi Yu had obtained previously, any country that obtained it would have a legendary strengthening of the country's strength. If the undying fruit was obtained by the Seven Islands and eaten by their legendary Valkyrie, who would dare to underestimate a legendary battle power that could live for 2 lifetimes? To a large extent, it could allow the Seven Islands to prosper for another 1,000 years. Do we have any new discoveries about the mythical era that are very important and can affect the future situation and share important information? At this moment, as President Lin finished speaking, the members of Bureau 11 fell into deep thought. Mythical and legendary resources were definitely not that easy to obtain. If he wasn't wrong, if he wanted to obtain mythical resources, he definitely had to take out important information about the mythical era that could allow the 7 countries to benefit together. The information of the Totem era might not even be qualified. At this moment, Shiyu was slightly stunned when he heard President Lin finish speaking. An archaeological event in Rongguang? He could use this opportunity to hatch an egg at Rongguang. After hatching, he would go to Inatella to participate in the world competition. Before that, it was to go to Tingxiang to complete the 3/3 of the progress. As for this archaeological event with rich rewards, Shiyu pondered for a moment. His archaeological achievement seemed to be from the beast-taming era. Emperor Shu, Emperor Wu, Empress, Space Emperor, didn't seem to be qualified to participate in this archaeological event. Wait! Shiyu was stunned. Suddenly, his eyes lit up. Mechanical Phantom Beast, Mythical Kirin. He had almost forgotten about the great invention of the Mechanical Phantom Beast system that went from the mythical era to the Totem era to the beast-taming era. Just now, he had just revived the Wind Kirin. If Shiyu wasn't wrong, the mythical era should have suffered some kind of calamity. At the moment, people were completely unaware of this calamity, but it could be displayed in the Wind Kirin's dream. Unfortunately, the information provided in the dream was too little. He didn't know if teaching Ling Mythical Revival more could restore it more clearly. What about using the memory water drop? If only there were more mythical creatures' dreams to reference. At that time, he and Buggy could understand the truth through entering dreams. If he could find the reason for the calamity of the mythical era, the details would be worth a mythical resource no matter what. Speaking of which, was there still a fossil from the mythical era that he had yet to develop in the 4th Bureau? Shiyu thought for a moment. It was a little wasteful to give it to the 4th Bureau to study. It was better to quickly come over and study it himself. After all, his superpower, together with Buggy's max-level dream stealing and Ling's research, should be more efficient than the 4th Bureau. At the thought of this, the transparent Shiyu, who had been silent just now, said, "President Lin, I've successfully modified the Wind Kirin Phantom of the mythical era into a mechanical phantom beast. The dream memories of such mythical creatures should also be archaeological information, right?" As Shiyu finished speaking, the entire conference room suddenly fell silent. A moment later, Principal Feng was extremely stunned. "Wait, what did you say?" "That mythical Kirin fossil has successfully revived." Grandma Li was also shocked. "Shiyu, really? When did this happen?" Legend Cook F***CK. Did I hear wrongly? Really? The conference room of Bureau 11 was shocked. In a courtyard, Lu Qingyi, who was with Principal Feng, was slightly stunned when she heard Shiyu's words. It really succeeded? The mechanical phantom beast system Shiyu studied at the mechanical conference could undoubtedly be related to archaeology. Among them, Shiyu had even exaggerated at the scene, saying that with the mechanical phantom beast system, he could revive divine beasts one day. Regarding this, the archaeologists and mechanics of Bureau 11 and the 4th Bureau were undoubtedly very excited when they heard it. They were so excited that they exploded. However, after the joint research of Bureau 11 and the 4th Bureau, they realized that Shiyu was really just making a big show. It was already difficult enough to revive extinct creatures from the Totem era. The chances of reviving creatures from the mythical era that were at least billions of years ago were extremely small. Even if it was possible, it might take hundreds of years of research. The traces of time contained in the mythical fossil were too complicated. At that point, the archaeological big shots of Bureau 11 could only sigh slightly. They didn't know if he could wait until that day. But today, Shiyu said that he had successfully revived the biological fossils of the mythical era. How was this possible? Shiyu, is what you said true? When did this happen? President Lin's expression was also solemn. He naturally knew this about the analysis of the Fourth Bureau, that there was nothing he could do about it. After all, no research could be done overnight. However, Shiyu actually exceeded the progress of the Fourth Bureau so much with his own strength. Chapter 745 Another Mythical Resource, 4. 745 Another Mythical Resource, 4. How did he do it? What a coincidence. Today. Perhaps it's because we have mastered higher-level dream entry, dream stealing, and materialization methods. We didn't rely on mechanic methods, but found another way, so it's more smooth, Shiyu said. We made some modifications to Emperor Shi's dream meditation skills. It can make the effect of entering a dream better. Improvement? President Lin's expression was complicated. Wait a minute, it was a time meditation technique used to detect traces of time and could even enter dreams through traces of time. That was a top-notch meditation technique developed by the most mysterious legendary beast tamer, Emperor Shi. It was improved just like that? The other members of Bureau 11 were also stunned. The others didn't understand, but Lu Qingyi quickly reacted with a complicated expression. The so-called modification, could it be to use the beast tamer who assisted pets also master super psychic power himself? Yes, but the dream fragment of the Kirin fossil is severely incomplete. There's too little useful information. We might have to study it in depth to find valuable information. President Lin, why don't you bring me the mythical fossil in the Fourth Bureau to study it first? Perhaps we can find some valuable information to participate in the archaeological event, Shiyu said confidently. F*CK? When Shiyu finished speaking, the other members of Bureau 11 were still stunned. They felt that this kid was ridiculous. As for President Lin, he also knew that Shiyu wasn't someone who bragged. He nodded and said, I understand. I'll immediately inform the Fourth Bureau to send you that mythical fossil. Upon hearing that, Shiyu was excited. After all, the mythical fossil might contain quasi-divine skills. He didn't know what divine beast that mythical fossil was left behind. It seemed to be said that Dong Huang didn't know the origin of this fossil either. Sigh, after going around in circles, he still had to rely on himself. Shiyu felt very busy, while the other members of Bureau 11 were endlessly silent. They could already predict how the Fourth Bureau would cry for their parents. If what Shiyu said was true, then this time, it was equivalent to Shiyu using archaeological methods to crush the scientific research methods of the Fourth Bureau. The other party would definitely be extremely shocked by Shiyu's progress. Shiyu, how did you modify the time meditation technique? Grandma Li, who also knew the time meditation technique's dream entry skill, couldn't wait to ask. As for Shiyu, he didn't plan to hide the fact that he had obtained the talent bead from Anqiang and developed superpowers. In that case, he would reveal the fact that he had developed superpowers to these seniors first. These seniors from Bureau 11 with the gift of telepathy should be the ones who needed superpowers the most. Principal Feng and Grandma Li were familiar with him, just like Senior Lu. They definitely had to be taught first. It's very simple. Shiyu simply applied for permission to broadcast something. In the next moment, Shiyu's figure also appeared in the video in the conference room. I discovered that as long as beast tamers also master psychic power with extraordinary proficiency, the spiritual type pets that use the dream stealing skill to complete the mental connection will have a better effect if they use Emperor Shi's time meditation technique to enter the dream fossil together. Ooh? No one reacted. In the next moment. That's it, in the video, Shiyu shouted for Ling to insert an image of himself fighting the Void Mantis just now. In the scene, almost corporeal spiritual power formed a blue outline around Shiyu. A terrifying spiritual power wave bloomed from Shiyu's body. As spatial ripples flashed, a pitch-black mantis holding a black saber descended in front of Shiyu. Everyone present recognized this living historical figure. This was the secondary pet of the Space Emperor that had broken through to the Overlord level, the Overlord Void Mantis. Shiyu was fighting it? Looking at the posture of the Void Mantis's attack, everyone in the conference room felt their hearts skip a beat. However, what shocked them even more was the next second. Shiyu seemed to have turned into a spiritual-type human-type ferocious beast close to the totem level. His eyes were filled with infinitely deep blue spiritual power. As the Void Mantis descended, Shiyu raised his arm and aimed his palm at the Void Mantis. In the next moment, Shiyu squeezed his palm. The Void Mantis was directly controlled by its spiritual power with a shocked expression. Its entire body was unable to break free. As Shiyu swung his arm again, with a boom, the Void Mantis was sent flying by the spiritual power like a blue meteor. Seeing Shiyu use his spiritual power to defeat the Overlord-level Void Mantis with his bare hands, everyone watching the video revealed incredulous expressions. This was what Shiyu claimed to be very simple? As long as the Beast Tamer also mastered psychic power with extraordinary proficiency. Chapter 746, 746 The Final Form of Telepathy, 1. 746 The Final Form of Telepathy, 1. As everyone knew, the video couldn't be photoshopped, so it was true. Looking at the illogical scene in front of them, President Lin and the others fell into deep thought. What a joke! Is this true? Dr. Chen widened his eyes. When the Void Mantis was at the monarch level, it could be said to be the strongest pet at the level of the Dong Huang's monarchs. After breaking through to Overlord, with the previous foundation and the advantage of the spatial element, even if it had just broken through, it would be much stronger than ordinary Overlords. As for the scene, it was sent flying by Shiyu's slap? Was this really not a cartoon created by Shiyu's butterfly of imagination with illusions? It's true, before Shiyu could say anything, Lu Qingyi said, when Shiyu fought Senior Void Mantis, I was beside him. It was true. As Lu Qingyi confirmed it, the members of Bureau 11 present were a little confused. Principal Feng immediately looked at Lu Qingyi, as if he was asking her why she didn't tell him such a ridiculous thing just now. Can this ability be popularized? After Shiyu displayed it, President Lin immediately understood what was going on. Body control talent. It was spiritual power developed by Shiyu through the talent of plunder. Baichuan was a target of the Seven Islands, Dragon Palace City, and Dong Huang, and Shiyu had plundered his talent. He definitely had to tell President Lin. Therefore, not only did the Gem Cat and other familiar faces know about the talent bead left behind by the Yu Maiden in the Totem era, but President Lin also knew later. However, President Lin completely didn't expect Shiyu to use the talent he should have plundered better than the original owner of the talent. This couldn't be blamed on Baichuan. After all, Baichuan didn't have a heaven-defying time skill like the Memory Water. Although the Memory Water Drop and the Time Fruit were both high-level skills, the value produced in Shiyu's team exceeded a large number of super skills. It's impossible to popularize it on a large scale. The consumption of resources is too great, and it's too time-consuming and tiring. There's only one key tool needed. However, it shouldn't be a problem to help a few or more people master it. The lowest mastery threshold is at the master level. It's an elite ability, Shiyu said. That's not bad. President Lin nodded and instantly realized the value of this ability. If he wasn't wrong, that was a skill that could only be mastered by relatively high proficiency psychic power. Such proficiency psychic power could also be derived into many applications. If it was mastered by beast tamers with special battle talent, the increase in strength would undoubtedly be extremely huge. He looked at Shiyu in the video. He didn't expect Shiyu to give him another surprise. What? President Lin and Shiyu's question and answer stunned the seniors of Bureau 11. In the video, how could others have a chance to learn the ability Shiyu used? From what Shiyu said, it was not a problem to teach it to more than 10 people. In an instant, even a senior like Legend Ku was instantly tempted and felt a little tempted. Were they involved? Seeing this, Lu Qingyi grunted. Shiyu should teach it to her first, right? From the looks of it, she should be the first person to know that Shiyu had mastered this ability. Even President Lin didn't seem to know. All right, this matter has come to an end. We'll talk about everything after the world competition, President Lin immediately said. This was a meeting to discuss the archaeological event, and it was not the time to discuss this. he estimated that he definitely couldn't obtain Shiyu's psychic level just by controlling the talent bead. Shiyu definitely had other improvement skills that belonged to Shiyu himself. President Lin's idea was to specially establish a department and let Shiyu become the superpower chief instructor of Bureau 13. He would start from young geniuses like Lu Qingyi and Jiao Shen who didn't have battle talent to teach them this special ability. If he had the energy, he could teach the older generation. Even if the consumption of resources was high and it was too time-consuming, it shouldn't be a problem to pile up dozens of super geniuses who could use superpowers with the country's resource bank, right? President Lin thought. In this way, Dong Huang and Shiyu would both benefit. Dozens of super geniuses would be added to Dong Huang, and Shiyu would use this opportunity to connect to a huge network and completely become one of the most powerful beast tamers in Dong Huang. President Lin fell into deep thought. If he included the connections of the Blue Sea Sprite and Dragon Palace City, the complicated relationship network behind Shiyu would probably become more and more complicated. All right. As soon as President Lin finished speaking, the members of Bureau 11 naturally had no objections. They would think about this after the world competition. It was just nice to give them sufficient time to prepare. Archaeologists like Legend Ku and Dr. Chen were already thinking about what gift to visit Shiyu with next. It was obvious that there were spots in order to learn this ability. They definitely had to be familiar with Shiyu first. They understood that the pavilion closest to the water enjoyed the moonlight first. As for someone like Principal Feng, who wasn't in the mood to be active and had already retired, he looked at Lu Qingyi. He didn't mind. He'd just let Shiyu teach this ability to Qingyi. If possible, it would be best if it was before the World Tournament. At that time, Lu Qingyi would be safer in the World Tournament. Back to the topic. Then, President Lin told everyone about the time of the World Archaeological Conference. He said, those who are interested in representing Dong Huang in the competition and who are interested in joining the archaeological team of the 7 countries, contact me later. Chapter 747, 747 The Final Form of Telepathy, 2. 747 The Final Form of Telepathy, 2. In addition, the personnel aren't limited to Bureau 11. There's also the Archaeological Association, the Civilian Talents, and the Ancient Families. Next, you guys will come into contact with them one by one. I'll provide you with a list. You can also dig it out yourself. The meeting lasted for about an hour. In short, Bureau 11's mission for the past 2 months was to continue to collect, summarize, and report special archaeological information about the mythical era and the totem era. Shiyu and Lu Qingyi were the only 2 members who had not been given missions because they still had to prepare for the World Tournament. The archaeological teams of the 7 countries only assisted the participants in cracking the ruins. As for the 2 of them, they didn't need the support of others to directly fight those mythical ruins themselves. However, although there were no missions, the 2 of them definitely couldn't stay idle. Shiyu planned to dig deeper into the mythical fossil, while Lu Qingyi decided to dig deeper into the mythical revival skill before going to the ruins to take a look at the inheritance of this skill. After the meeting ended, Shiyu chatted privately with President Lin for a few minutes more and told the Wind Kareen about the situation. In the scene, President Lin pondered slightly. After learning that the Wind Kareen, a mechanical phantom beast, had learned the lost skill Wind Spirit Bead and had a chance of becoming a mythical race, President Lin nodded. Not bad. If your mechanical phantom beast really evolves into a mythical race, it's undoubtedly equivalent to a new demigod in Dong Huang in the future. I'll inform the 4th Bureau to send the other fossil to you as soon as possible. If it could really awaken a quasi-divine skill, even if it was very difficult to grow to the mythical stage, it was not difficult to grow to the demigod level. Spending money, even if it was 10 legendary resources. As long as the pet that had mastered a quasi-divine skill was strengthened to the totem level, then the battle power of a totem with a quasi-divine skill was undoubtedly at the demigod level. Although Shiyu had said that the quasi-divine skill mastered by the Wind Kareen might not be a battle-type skill, President Lin still had a lot of anticipation. The quasi-divine skill Wind Blessing was a move to strengthen luck. It definitely couldn't be considered a battle move, but the effect might not be bad in battle. He made Shiyu believe in the power of quasi-divine skills. That was the power that involved the laws of the world. Speaking of which, President Lin, if I showcase the ability to revive mythical creatures at the archaeological event, I won't be targeted, right? Shiyu thought. I feel that if the totem country finds out, they will definitely target us in the world tournament. President Lin nodded and said, of course, but what gave you the illusion that you wouldn't be targeted to death even if you didn't show it? Shiyu said, I'm not afraid, but what I mean is that in order to ensure Ling's safety, can we get it a repair type and defensive type mechanic type legendary resource? If it really doesn't work, any wind type legendary resource is fine. We can accelerate the cultivation progress. Perhaps we can have greater gains. When the time comes, we can directly exchange for a mythical resource at the archaeological conference. President Lin. It was true. President Lin, tell me. Would Senior Dragon God agree to let Ling acknowledge her as godmother? Shiyu fell into deep thought. The Kirin fossil came from Dragon Palace City. No matter what, Ling has some blood relations with Dragon Palace City. With an additional identity, the other totem countries have to consider it if they want to target it. Ling. President Lin. Kai Tong, I'm familiar with this. President Lin said, the legendary resources will be for you. Don't disturb Senior Dragon God. Ah, all right. Shiyu was helpless. President Lin was silent. He hoped that Shiyu's mechanical phantom beast could really awaken a quasi-divine skill. If it succeeded, with the blue sea sprite, it would be two pets with demigod aptitude. After Shiyu suggested that President Lin find more mythical fossils, the two of them ended the call. Shiyu came to Principal Feng and Lu Qingyi. So, are we still eating? Principal Feng is also here. Let's go together. After Shiyu came over, Principal Feng immediately looked at him with a burning gaze. Call Teacher Ying and Senior Mantis too. By the way, don't mention that I played a battle replay in the conference room later. Who? Principal Feng and Lu Qingyi were silent. This kid still knew not to let the Void Mantis know. If the Void Mantis knew that he had secretly recorded the scene of it being beaten up for others to see, it would kill him. Let's talk about eating later. Shiyu, that superpower was plundered from Anchang's talent bead, right? Shiyu entrusted the gem cat to take care of Anchang, so he naturally entrusted Principal Feng to take care of this kid. Shiyu nodded and said, yes, it was developed through the talent bead. However, thinking of my level, this is only one of the conditions. That kid is really a lucky star of Ancient Capital University. Principal Feng sighed. Anchang's awakening mirror gave Shiyu the initial idea of the mechanical phantom beast system. Anchang's talent bead allowed Shiyu to develop superpowers through it. Therefore, I plan to make a trip to Dragon Palace City before going to Tingxiang this time. I'll also bring him over and throw him over to train for a few days to thank him. Shiyu smiled. He would ask Senior Sea Dragon King to give his Sea Dragon special treatment and Senior Butterfly God to bless his green cocoon. Sure. Principal Feng nodded and smiled. Training was good. Training was good so that he could grow into the new pillar of Ancient Capital University. Just as Shiyu and the others were about to eat, something was happening at the Mechanical Research Institute in Wuling City. Chapter 748, 748 The Final Form of Telepathy, 3. 748 The Final Form of Telepathy, 3. In order to study mechanical phantom beasts, Dong Huang established a total of 3 mechanical phantom beast research institutes, respectively in Wuling City, Ancient Capital University, and Star Capital. Among them, Star Capital was the main research base. The most common were mechanical intelligence and mechanics from the 4th Bureau. As for the Mechanical Phantom Beast Research Institute in Wuling City and Ancient Capital University, it was purely because the Mechanical Phantom Beast Army that Shiyu applied for later was training with the Iron-Eating Beast Army and the Green Silkworm Cocoon Army over there. As for Ancient Capital University, in order to develop the mechanic class, they also established a Phantom Beast Research Institute. At the moment, some mechanic students had made it through and contracted a mechanical phantom beast. Therefore, when this batch of mechanic students grew up, perhaps the Battle Club of Ancient Capital University could harvest another batch of unexpected new blood. Star Capital Technology Garden. In the 4th Bureau, Dr. Mai Xiaoying, Legend Xiao Shuang, and Major General Xiao Qin were all neatly working for Shi Yu to study the mechanical phantom beast system. Apart from that, some of the other seniors from the 4th Bureau, even Grandma Li from Bureau 11, President Yi from the 3rd Bureau, and even Fang Lan's parents and the others were here. The Mechanical Phantom Beast Research Institute here could be said to have gathered dozens of elites in the mechanical, archaeological, and feeding fields. It wasn't like there wasn't a super research brain with perfect proficiency. Under the hard work of this group of people and with the support of some of the technology and ideas provided by Shi Yu, the cultivation of the soul heart fruit was smooth. Batch after batch of mechanical phantom beasts successfully revived, and the technology was gradually perfected. In just a few months, Dong Huang relied on this technology to revive many extinct pets and many lost skills. However, what gave this group of elites the greatest headache was that the research progress of the most important mythical fossil was still almost zero. The dream illusion of this mythical fossil was like a ball of mist. It was impossible to see clearly, let alone materialize, replicate, and revive into a phantom life form. At this moment, one of the main people in charge here, Legend Xiao Shuang and Major General Xiao Qin's mother, Madame Mai Xiaoying, who was the judge of the mechanical conference at that time, suddenly received a call from President Lin. President Lin. Mai Xiaoying was not surprised to receive President Lin's call. This was because the research progress of the mechanical phantom beast had to be continuously reported recently. She estimated that President Lin was here to ask about the progress again. President Lin, you called just in time. Good news. What good news? Dr. Mai, could it be that your research on the mythical fossil has also made progress? Dr. Mai Xiaoying chuckled and said, how is that possible? The progress of that fossil is still the same. It's just that our initial judgment is that the evolution potential of the mechanical phantom beast is very huge. Apart from upgrading through mechanical parts, a mechanical phantom beast can also evolve by loading a second fossil. In other words, a mechanical phantom beast might contain the power of two illusions. Fusion evolution. Although mechanical phantom beasts are the same as biological modification machines and don't have long lifespans, this discovery has improved the strategic significance of mechanical phantom beasts. Dr. Mai Xiaoying said excitedly. Just imagine, how cool would it be if the tyrant dragon phantom that originally couldn't fly successfully fused with the wind god winged dragon phantom and grew wings. At the same time, it would become the overlord of the earth and sky. Fusion of the sea dragon phantom and the swimming sea tyrant dragon was also pretty cool. Ooh? As Dr. Mai Xiaoying spoke, she suddenly felt that something was wrong. She said in surprise, President Lin, what did you just say? What do you mean by could it be that our mythical fossil research has also made progress? She had discovered a blind spot. President Lin said, Shi Yu improved the time meditation technique and optimized the dream entry skill. He has already successfully revived the wind Kirin phantom. Since you haven't developed any results, send this mythical fossil to Shi Yu first and let him study it. Dr. Mai Xiaoying? What? The old woman said in disbelief, Shi Yu. Shi Yu succeeded? No, stop kidding. The dozens of them and the super smart brain studied together, but the progress was still stuck here. How could Shi Yu be so fast? President Lin said, not many people need to know about this. Just send the mythical fossil to Shi Yu as soon as possible. Dr. Mai looked shocked. So, it was true? She still felt that it was a little ridiculous. I understand. Whether it was true would be known as long as she personally sent the fossil to Shi Yu later. At the meal, Shi Yu and the others chatted about superpowers and the Phoenix Army for the entire night. After learning that Zhong Qianyi had the aptitude of a Phoenix hybrid and that Shi Yu had the intention of establishing the Phoenix Army, Old Master Feng was extremely excited. This matter had to be dealt with by Lu Qingyi's mother, his daughter. Good things shouldn't be left to outsiders. The Phoenix Army sounded like a powerful army battle power in the future. Apart from that, after learning that Shi Yu still wanted to continue developing his telepathy talent through the talent bead, Principal Feng and Lu Qingyi couldn't help but fall silent for Shi Yu's bold idea. He didn't expect that one spiritual power couldn't satisfy Shi Yu. However, Shi Yu also expressed that he would try his best to let his seniors learn psychic power before the world tournament. After that, Shi Yu went back to rest. He planned to recover quickly and teach Ling mythical revival. Chapter 749, 749 The Final Form of Telepathy, 4. 749 The Final Form of Telepathy, 4. At the same time, he also received a call from Dr. Mai, planning to wait for them at Ancient Capital University tomorrow. After returning, in the ruined space, Shi Yu and Ling were drinking memory water. On Ling's side, it wanted to see if it could recall more dream memories through the memory water drop. Unfortunately, the situation was not good. In the end, he probably had to start with the mythical revival. As for Shi Yu, he was searching for memories of his past life. He held the talent bead and continued to develop his telepathy talent. It took more than 2 months. Shi Yu had failed many times, but at the moment, he was gradually confirming the idea of telepathy development. It was 11 and Buggy that had inspired Shi Yu. It was the profession of archaeologist that gave Shi Yu inspiration. It was his experiences in his previous life that gave him inspiration. The core of Shi Yu's current thought process was idealism. Everything is born of the heart. The universe is my heart, and my heart is the universe. All existences are materialized from the heart. In other words, Buggy's power of imagination. Buggy's power of imagination could turn all imagination into reality. To put it bluntly, it was to dare to think. The bigger the imagination, the bigger the heart, and the bigger the world. Therefore, Shi Yu was wondering if he could rely on his mental strength and imagination to strengthen his pet. If he believed that if 11 could defeat a divine beast, 11 would obtain powerful strength. It firmly believed that if Buggy could become the strongest dragon, it could definitely become the strongest dragon. It was purely a power born from the heart. However, imagination alone was useless. Shi Yu also needed more to support his imagination and faith. Just like how Buggy's imagination phantom also needed to rely on equipment, Shi Yu also needed to rely on some external forces. And for these external forces, Shi Yu chose archaeological discoveries from his previous life, mythical legends from his previous life, and heart thoughts from his previous life. Before transmigrating, Shi Yu was a mythical scholar and an archaeologist. In his previous life, he had come into contact with more ancient ruins than in the 2 years he had transmigrated. However, those ruins on Earth didn't have extraordinary power, so they looked ordinary. However, the current Shi Yu didn't think that they were ordinary. Because he had also seen the 9 inscriptions carved on 11 in a certain ruin on Earth. There was a connection between Earth and Blue Planet that Shi Yu had yet to forget. In fact, figuring out this connection was Shi Yu's greatest goal now. In that case, if some of the myths, beliefs, and power he knew were true, could he borrow them for himself? He relied on the power of his imagination to transfer their power to his pet. With the help of the memory water drop, Shi Yu kept wandering in the sea of memories. In the dark world, he saw a first Chinese painting carved on the stone wall. It was 2 black and white yin-yang fish wrapping each other. With the help of the memory water drop, with the help of mental strength, and with the help of the meditation technique, they looked much more magical than when Shi Yu saw them himself. Countless layers superimposed. Shi Yu seemed to see the process of the universe going from infinity to Taiji to the transformation of all things. He saw the process of chaos splitting yin and yang and even splitting yin and yang. As a transmigrator, Shi Yu naturally knew what these were. They indeed seemed to contain some powerful power, and the concept of yin-yang Taiji didn't exist on Blue Planet in the beast-taming era. Therefore, Shi Yu was thinking that if this painting really contained some kind of power of the natural order, was it possible to rely on his understanding and mental strength to affect his pet? Apart from that, in the dark meditation scene, Shi Yu also saw a starry sky and a constellation through the power of the memory water drop. They were also carved on the stone wall. However, the simple pattern was lifelike in Shi Yu's eyes. There were a total of 7 constellations. They were connected together and looked like dragons. This was the origin of one of the 4 spirits of heaven, the green dragon. The myths and legends of the Green Dragon existed on Earth and Blue Planet, but similarly, both Earth and Blue Planet thought that this was fiction. In both places, the Green Dragon referred to the name of the Eastern dragon-shaped constellation. It originated from the worship of the ancient constellations. On Blue Planet, the Green Dragon was the earliest recorded in the Totem era. It was said that it was a divine beast made up by humans in the Totem era in order to scare other totems. In the east of Blue Planet, the Green Dragon was very famous. It was one of the dragon element mythical totems that humans believed in. However, among the orthodox dragons, be it East Sea Dragon Palace City or the Western Dragons, they didn't recognize the Green Dragon. This was because there were detailed records in Dragon Palace City and the Western Dragon Empire. The ancestor of the dragon race was a world destruction divine dragon named Ancestral Dragon. It was a native divine dragon of Blue Planet born on its mother planet, not a green dragon totem created by humans and some subspecies dragons through the constellations. If the Green Dragon was formed by a constellation, it was no longer a native creature of Blue Planet, so the concept of the Green Dragon was not orthodox on Blue Planet. However, the concepts of the Green Dragon, the Vermilion Bird, the White Tiger, and the Black Tortoise spread very widely on Blue Planet. In fact, many transcendent life forms believed it and evolved towards these concepts. There was even no lack of totem-level creatures and even demigods in the future, but most dragons still recognized the ancestral dragon more. It was mainly because one had evidence, and the other didn't. However, at this moment, Shiyu discovered some divine powers of the Green Dragon through the Green Dragon diagram in his memory. That made sense. Even if the Green Dragon was really fictional, after being worshipped for so long, it should have given birth to a spirit like the Blue Sea Sprite, right? Unfortunately, Shiyu still couldn't connect these miracles to 11, Buggy, and the others. Is there anything lacking? Shiyu opened his eyes. The yin-yang taiji painting flashed in his eyes that reflected his heart, but it quickly disappeared. Shiyu sighed. He definitely didn't have enough awareness. Damn it. But no matter what, after seeing these magical patterns from the ruins of Earth through the memory water drop and the power of meditation, Shiyu was even more certain that developing telepathy in this direction was not wrong. Through their mental connection, they could transmit the magical power they sensed to their pets. Through the power of imagination, they could use this power on them and help them become stronger. As long as they dared to imagine it, 11 could step on the yin-yang diagram and fight a divine dragon. Buggy could occupy the 7 stars and become a green dragon. He felt that this should be the final form of the archaeologist's telepathy in Bureau 11. In comparison, spiritual power was just a casual addition during the development process. Chapter 750 Unlucky Person 1. 750 Unlucky Person 1. The next day. Shiyu woke up in a daze. He looked at the time. It was not even 8 in the morning. It was still early. He could still sleep for 8 more hours. However, when he recalled that he had to get a delivery at 8 this morning, he had no choice but to get up. Soon, Shiyu went out. Soon, he brought back the mythical fossil researched by the Star Capital Mechanical Beast Research Institute. The delivery team was Dr. Mai and her daughter. Although Dr. Mai and the others wanted to talk to Shiyu in detail, there didn't seem to be anything to talk about. This was because the progress of the mechanic class was similar to that of the Star Capital Research Institute. There was nothing to share and communicate about. The ones from the Star Capital Research Institute were beast tamers with max-level psychic power, the father of mechanical phantom beasts, Buggy, and baby Ginseng. Shiyu had no communication. After sending the 3 delivermen away, Shiyu returned to the dormitory and looked at the grey fossil. Buggy. After Shiyu shouted, Buggy swung its tail and flew out eagerly. It was very smug and had yet to recover from the smugness of defeating the Void Mantis. Let's go in and take a look, Shiyu said to Buggy with the fossil. Woo! Buggy nodded, indicating that it would leave it to him. 2 minutes later, Shiyu and Buggy came out of the fossil dream with serious expressions. He felt that he couldn't blame the research progress of the Star Capital Research Institute for being slow. It was because the dream of this fossil was too strange. Even if Shiyu and Buggy went in to take a look, it was a fog. There was nothing. Holding this mythical quality and level 5 mythical fossil, Shiyu and Buggy looked at each other. So difficult? Shiyu and Buggy didn't believe it and kept trying in various ways. The so-called various methods were to stack buffs. Be it possession, the time fruit, or borrowing equipment, they would do whatever they could to stack their attributes. After a long time, Shiyu and Buggy's eyes were red. They were as tired as dogs, but they still couldn't see anything. So scammy? Shiyu said. They had even entered the dream of the Kirin race. Could this fossil be higher than the Kirin race? According to archaeological discoveries, in the Eastern mythical era, the dragon, phoenix, and Kirin races occupied the main positions. They should have the highest status in the mythical era. They had orthodox mythical inheritances and were mythical races. Apart from top-notch myths like the ancestral dragon and the origin phoenix, there were also many sub-races. For example, the Kirin race included many attributes. There was the wind Kirin, naturally, there was the golden Kirin and the fire Kirin. It was precisely because the race was huge and there were many ruins left behind that their historical traces could be passed down to this day. Among them, the dragon race was at the top, leaving behind the two huge factions that crossed the totem era and the beast-taming era, Dragon Palace City and the Dragon Empire. Therefore, the dragons didn't acknowledge the green dragon because in their inheritance, the green dragon was just a figment of the humans of the totem era. However, it was true that the green dragon totem had collected an incomparably huge amount of faith. Green dragon, white tiger, black tortoise, and vermilion bird. These totem divine beasts that humans created with their constellations condensed a large amount of faith. If they were also real, their strength might not be weak. After all, using faith and becoming a god was also a path. This was what the fox god of the heavenly fox nation relied on. Even the blue sea sprite was born from faith. This was also why some totems evolved in the direction of the fictional fur holy beasts. Shiyu suspected that, including the fur holy beasts gathered by Emperor Wu and the original owner of the legendary Dragon Ball equipped by Buggy, they had all evolved in the direction of the 4 holy beasts with little thoughts. He was probably wondering if he could get some power of faith by evolving in this direction. Otherwise, without benefits, who would be so bored as to evolve in the direction of the fictional totem divine beasts? But if they could inherit their power of faith, that would be different. After all, even in the current Dong Huang, many people believed in the green dragon totem. Although the 4 holy beasts were fictional, they could be said to be household names among humans and transcendent creatures. Ordinary people in Dong Huang might not know about the ancestral dragon, but they definitely knew about the green dragon. Compared to the prosperity of the dragon race, the phoenix race was more miserable. In ancient times, it was even glorious and was even the behind-the-scenes totem of the Empress dynasty. But in the modern era, there were already very few powerful phoenix races. The only one Shiyu knew was still sealed. As for the Kirin race, they were even worse than dragons and phoenixes. Although there weren't many purebloods in the phoenix race, there were still some transcendent creatures with part of the phoenix bloodline. However, the Kirin race really didn't have any inheritance at all, only leaving behind their once glorious history, proving that they were once as powerful as dragons and phoenixes. However, this was enough. After all, it was one of the few races with mythical races in the East. Therefore, if Shiyu used the wind Kirin fossil to create the mechanical phantom beast of the Kirin race, it would undoubtedly be an earthquake for the archaeological and beast-taming worlds. As for those divine beasts without races and individuals who became gods, their inheritance and history were even more serious. Even their names had already disappeared in the long river of history. Shiyu and Buggy continued to take a look at the fossil. They still couldn't spy on the dream. This should be a fossil left behind by a real mythical creature, Shiyu said. Woo! Buggy nodded. That should be the case. That wind Kirin should only be a mythical race and not a mythical level, so it was easier for them to spy on its dreams. Chapter 751, 751 Unlucky Person, 2. 751 Unlucky Person, 2. Because the Wind Kirin's growth level was not high, even if the fossil it left behind was preserved by Dragon Palace City, its energy had already disappeared. However, this fossil that also came from the mythical era still had level 5 energy fluctuations after so long. It definitely couldn't be as simple as a divine beast cub. There was an 80% chance that it was a mythical big boss when he was alive. Shiyu and Buggy still wanted to continue researching when another call came. When Shiyu saw the caller ID, he was immediately amused and chose to answer. Shiyu, I've considered it. I want to become a hybrid of the Phoenix race. On the other side, Zhong Qianyi's voice came from Shiyu's batch of beast tamers. Have you considered it? All right, then. Through to Overlord was the Courtyard Sprite, and the Courtyard Sprite was her latest contracted pet. It had never received the mythical revivaled skill inheritance. The reason why this pet was the first to break through was because Senior Lu had obtained the legendary undead resources of Ancient Capital University and could be used by the Courtyard Sprite. Considering the practicality of the possession skill of the Courtyard Sprite, it could make up for her shortcoming of not having battle power and not being able to cooperate with her pet. Lu Qingyi simply didn't use this resource to exchange for other legendary resources. However, that was a normal situation. The situation was abnormal now. Shiyu firmly believed that Senior Lu could pass because he had given Lu Qingyi a drop of memory water. It was enough to increase the proficiency of the possession skill to Dao proficiency. An Overlord level sprite, undead, and a legendary beast tamer. The two combined through max level possession. Even if their battle power couldn't compare to a top-notch Overlord, they could definitely suppress ordinary Overlords. The enhancement of max-level possession was much stronger than the enhancement of a beast tamer's pet with a strengthening talent. However, Shiyu heard that the one who gave Senior Lu the assessment was Master Chu Jie, who had obtained an Overlord-level partner. This was very coincidental. It's all thanks to me, Shiyu sighed. As noon approached, Shiyu gave up studying fossils and stopped wasting his energy. If he wasted any more energy, he really wouldn't have time to teach Ling Mythical Revival. Shiyu was just about to pick up the phone to ask Senior Lu and the others about the assessment when Lu Qingyi called Shiyu first. How is it? Shiyu asked. I passed. It's all thanks to your possession memory water drop. Otherwise, I'm afraid I wouldn't have been able to win this battle. Lu Qingyi was extremely happy and thanked him. Shiyu coughed. There was no requirement to win the legend assessment. Usually, one would pass after fighting for an hour or two without a winner. It was very rare for new legends to defeat the examiner at once, but from the looks of it, Senior Lu had done it. Master Chu Jie's new Overlord partner didn't look good. Could it be at the level of the prediction owl? What did Master Chu Jie say? He seems to be very shocked. I didn't expect my strength to increase so much after I entered the possession state. Ha ha, then what did you say? It's all thanks to you, which is what I told Master Chu Jie. Lu Qingyi smiled. Shiyu had indeed taught her well. No, the resources provided were very good. This Shiyu said, then? Then, Master Chu Jie was expressionless and didn't say anything. He just wanted to treat you to a meal tonight to thank you for saving Chu Ling in the Heavenly Fox Nation. Shiyu scratched his head. Was it sincere? The news of Lu Qingyi passing the legend assessment was announced very quickly. The assessment she passed in the morning had already been announced to the outside world by the Dong Huang Association at noon. This news undoubtedly caused a stir in Dong Huang's beast-taming domain again. 6. There were already 6 legend beast tamers in the top 10 of the sequence. In the world competition more than 20 years ago, Dong Huang had only gathered 3 legends under the age of 30. And 20 years later, the number actually doubled. The sect master of the Binhai Training Hall, Zheng Hai, had just broken through to the legendary level when Lu Qingyi followed closely behind, making the beast tamer's gazes focus on the sequence ranking again. Wu Ling City. Whitebrook looked at the battle picture of Lu Qingyi in her sprite form on the headlines. She couldn't wait. So beautiful! So beautiful! Damn it, she couldn't keep up with Senior Lu's progress anymore. What should she do? Chapter 752, 752 Unlucky Person, 3. 752 Unlucky Person, 3. In fact, in the past few days, Whitebrook felt that she was about to be surpassed by Senior Panda. Senior Ji Mengzhu was too strong. Even Whitebrook was considering whether she should be thick-skinned enough to acknowledge Senior Ji Mengzhu as her master. Imperial Capital. Ji Feng watched in silence as his former defeated opponent overtook him step by step. He sighed slightly. As for him, he probably had no hope of breaking through to the legend level before the world competition. The progress was too different. Big news always followed. After the Dong Huang Association announced the news that Lu Qingyi had advanced to the legend level, the sequence ranking was immediately updated. The updated ranking stunned everyone. Sequence first place, Yixing, this second-generation heir's status was still unshakable. Sequence 2, Divine Bell, descendant of a mechanical legend. The ranking was still stable. Third, Jiang Tianyang, the legendary noble son of a large financial group. Fourth in the sequence, Zheng Hai, the legendary disciple of the tyrannical Sea. Seeing this, everyone realized that Zheng Hai had successfully challenged the original fourth place, Zhu Ming. Zhu Ming was considered the weakest in the previous top 4 of the sequence. The reason why he was so fierce was that his beast-taming talent had mutated, and it was a fusion talent. It could allow the different pets he contracted to temporarily fuse and evolve. Because of this powerful talent, he was taken in by a legendary beast tamer as a disciple to nurture. However, from the looks of it, an ordinary legend's disciple was still inferior to a titled legend disciple. Once he broke through, Zheng Hai immediately challenged Zhu Ming successfully and obtained 4th place in the sequence. Of course, this was also related to the cultivation idea of the tyrannical sea legend. The tyrannical sea legend paid a lot of attention to Zheng Hai's foundation. When one of Zheng Hai's giant Leviathan super-racial skills was close to perfect proficiency, the tyrannical sea legend didn't let him break through. Instead, it let him train all super-racial skills to this level before breaking through in one go. This way, the overlord body he obtained would be even stronger. Therefore, once Zheng Hai broke through, his strength was quite extraordinary. The beast tamers who were watching the show felt that it was nothing. They only felt that Legend Zhu Ming was a little unlucky. He was first defeated by the noble son of a large financial group and then by the titled legendary disciple. He was an unlucky person. If that was all, it wasn't too much of a scam. The most scammy thing was that it was Sequence 5. Sequence 5. Everyone was very sure that their eyes weren't wrong. On the 5th place of the sequence, the name was still top-notch Master Shi Yu. As for Zhu Ming, after losing 2 consecutive battles, he directly fell to 6th place and squeezed Lu Qingyi, a new legend, to 7th place. However, 5th place. The 5th place that was stuck between a bunch of legends was still Shi Yu, a top-notch master. This change undoubtedly stunned everyone. They instantly understood what this meant. This meant that the sequence competition committee thought that Zhu Ming, who was ranked 3rd in the former sequence, couldn't defeat the number 1 person below the legendary level. It was fine if Lu Qingyi had just advanced without any battle results, but Zhu Ming was originally 3rd in the sequence. He was actually ranked behind Shi Yu. Causing trouble. Most beast tamers immediately felt that the sequence competition committee was causing trouble. In Divine Capital, a young man less than 1.7 meters tall, fair and tender, with a chubby figure and face, stared at his falling sequence ranking, his heart bleeding. His face was incomparably red as he muttered, "It's over, it's over. Even if I lose 2 rounds of my legendary resources, why am I ranked 6th? Is this reasonable? I've clearly never fought this Shi Yu before, so why am I ranked below him?" He immediately targeted Shi Yu. However, when he saw that there was still Lu Qingyi, who had just advanced to the legendary level, Zhu Ming had a subtle headache. He felt that if he couldn't enter the top 5, he would be beaten to death by his master. What he didn't know was that the sequence battle committee had no choice. This was because the budget of the entire selection competition was 5 legendary resources. Shi Yu had already taken 1 away in advance, so they naturally had to rank him in the top 5. Moreover, Director Xiong, who had watched the battle between Jinghai and Zhu was indeed not very satisfied with this little fatty's performance. He felt that he was too relaxed, so he naturally couldn't let this fatty easily obtain legendary resources. The settlement of the sequence ranking was about to end. Whether he wanted to obtain the legendary resource depended on whether he could give it a try in the end. Even if Shi Yu had already taken away a legendary resource in advance, if someone defeated him, the sequence competition committee could only apply for one more. And if, as a legend, they couldn't even defeat a top-notch master like Shi Yu, it would be a waste to apply for another legendary resource for them. It was better to give Yixing and Divine Bell to strengthen the primary battle power more. Shi Yu directly became a touchstone arranged by the sequence committee for Lu Qingyi and Zhu Ming. Is Director Zhong causing trouble? At this moment, Shi Yu from Ancient Capital University also discovered the updated ranking. Shi Yu wouldn't be surprised if he was squeezed out of the top 5. After all, he was the only one in front who wasn't a legend. After being squeezed out, he wouldn't continue fighting. After all, he had already received the resources. It was impossible for the association to give him repeats, so he wouldn't scam others. But the problem was, what did they mean by placing himself in 5th place? Shi Yu had a strange expression. Soon, he silently received a challenge application from the 6th of the sequence. This little fatty with a weak presence panicked. Challenge message, Dr. Shi Yu, let's fight Tilda. Challenging a top-notch master like me, you have no integrity. Forget it, ignore it. Shi Yu took a look. After all, it was his future bodyguard. It was better not to damage the child's confidence. At the moment, the sequence battle was coming to an end. It was a mandatory challenge stage. The challenged party couldn't refuse. If they didn't accept it within 24 hours or refused to accept the challenge, they would automatically be judged to have lost. Shi Yu chose to ignore the challenge and wait for the system to automatically squeeze him out. As for this Zhu Ming, Shi Yu estimated that even if he entered the top 5, he wouldn't stay long. He would eventually be beaten by Senior Lu. He was an unlucky guy. Chapter 753, the first quasi-divine skill in the team, 1. 753 The first quasi-divine skill in the team, 1. Shi Yu ignored Zhu Ming and continued recuperating. With a nourishing meal, if it went smoothly, he could teach Ling the mythical revival skill tonight. At this moment, he didn't plan to stay idle. He took out his phone and called his lucky star, Anchang. Senior Shi Yu. Ever since he gave the memory water drop to Anchang before going to the 7 Islands, Shi Yu had never paid attention to him. Anchang had always wanted to thank Shi Yu in person, but unfortunately, he couldn't find Shi Yu. This time, Shi Yu called. Anchang was very excited. Little An, how's the situation recently? Are you a high-level beast tamer? Ah, this. Anchang was a little stunned. How could it be so fast? He was only in his first year. Senior Shi Yu, I'm already an intermediate beast tamer, but I'm still a little short of a high-level beast tamer. Well, Shi Yu fell into deep thought and said, what about the pet situation? Anchang immediately said, it's all thanks to your dragon blood, Senior. Although I'm only level 3 and the sea dragon is only at the transcendent level, after we fuse, it's easy for us to defeat ordinary commander-level pets. His tone was filled with joy as he said, and the green silkworm has also successfully evolved. It used the super proficient worm silk to evolve into a green silkworm cocoon. Its growth level has also reached the transcendent level. It shouldn't be long before it can break out of the cocoon and become a butterfly. By the way, the evolution materials are the recommended ones for the White Star Phoenix Butterfly evolution path researched by Dr. Zwe. On the basis of the low-level Monarch race's White Star Butterfly, there are additional Phoenix materials. I haven't contracted the third pet, but Principal Feng has already contacted me and said that he wants to give me a talented iron-eating beast cub. Shi Yu said, not bad. Are you free recently? I'm free. Senior, what's the matter? By the way, I haven't thanked you for that water drop. After Anchang obtained Shi Yu's worm silk memory water in the heroic ruins, he could be said to be extremely shocked. Originally, his green silkworm silk proficiency was transcendent and was already very rare. However, after using this memory water drop, the worm silk proficiency actually continued to increase. In the end, it even reached another realm. This also made his green silkworm magical during the evolution process. Its life force and energy value had a qualitative leap. If it broke out of the cocoon, he didn't dare to think about it. This was definitely a super treasure. It's good that you're free. Let me introduce you to a friend. Go and find it to help evolve the green silkworm cocoon now. Then, in a few days, come to Dragon Palace City with me. I'll arrange some training missions for you. Try to become a high-level beast tamer before school starts in your second year. After hearing Shi Yu's words, Anchang was slightly stunned. Senior Shi Yu wanted to personally arrange a training mission for him? In an instant, Anchang was extremely excited. He had also seen the updated sequence ranking just now. He still believed in the value of Shi Yu, the number one person below the legendary level and the national champion. All right. Anchang nodded heavily. Shi Yu also nodded. The Awakening Mirror and Talent Bead Anchang took out played a crucial role in the entire development of Dong Huang. One was the mechanical phantom beast system, and the other was the superpower system. Shi Yu had already decided that even if he used resources, it would pile him to the legend level. After the Butterfly God and the Sea Dragon King helped build the foundation for the pet, Shi Yu didn't believe that he couldn't nurture a beast tamer with legend potential. Next, Shi Yu provided the location of the Butterfly God's habitat to Anchang and let him find it himself. As for helping it evolve, Shi Yu had already informed the Butterfly God in advance. Although for ordinary beast tamers, even Shi Yu of Bureau 11 at that time, the daughter of a legend, Xia Qingwei, had to wait for a specific time for the butterfly meeting to help evolve. However, with Shi Yu's current situation, it was definitely easy for the Butterfly God to help. The Butterfly God would also give him face. After all, Shi Yu had already shattered one totem. In addition to a series of achievements, it was very difficult for the Butterfly God not to treat Shi Yu as a figure of the same level. After arranging for Anchang to leave, Shi Yu received a call from Director Zhong in the 8th Bureau. As soon as the call was picked up, Director Zhong's chuckle came from the other side. Shi Yu, did you see Zhu Ming's challenge at the sequence ranking? I did. Why don't you accept it? Shi Yu said, in any case, I've already taken all my rewards. If Senior Zhu Ming is willing to snatch the top 5, so be it. Why should I join in the fun? Director Zhong? Why was this kid like this? He didn't want to fight for the top 5 if there were no resources. He still had fame. Director Zhong's old face immediately fell. He had a headache. He didn't expect Shi Yu to not follow the routine. Didn't Lu Qingyi also break through to the legend level? Let the two of them fight. Whoever wins will get 5th place. I won't join in the fun, Shi Yu said with a smile. The treatment he received for taking the legendary resources in advance had already exceeded 1st place. What else was there to think about? Unless the sequence competition committee said that 1st place could get 2 legendary resources and not just the priority choice, he might go and fight for 1st place. Director Zhong sighed and gritted his teeth. I understand. Obviously, he couldn't do anything to Shi Yu either. After all, Shi Yu didn't even care about the ranking, so he couldn't force Shi Yu to accept the challenge. After hanging up, Shi Yu stretched. It was easy not to pursue anything. If this were Heavenly King Zhu, he would definitely be obsessed again. In the next few days, Shi Yu stayed at Ancient Capital University as usual to relax. He even gathered with Master Chu Jie. Although he was a little traumatized by Shi Yu, he was grateful that Shi Yu had saved his daughter. Master Chu Jie was also sincere. In short, he didn't suffer those beatings for nothing. Chapter 754, 750 for the first quasi-divine skill in the team, 2. 750 for the first quasi-divine skill in the team, 2. As for the sequence ranking, it successfully fell to 7th place under Shi Yu's lousy laziness. However, the old unlucky Zhu Ming didn't take 5th place either. Instead, it was intercepted by Lu Qingyi in the blink of an eye. According to Senior Lu, the other party's fusion talent development was not yet in place. It could only support the fusion and evolution of 2 pets. As long as Zhu Ming could let the 3 pets fuse and evolve together, or if he could let the 4 pets fuse and evolve separately, the outcome of the battle was uncertain. In the form of a sprite, Lu Qingyi fought the fusion overlord. Senior Lu was slightly at a disadvantage, but the remaining top-notch monarchs who could revive their myths fought Zhu Ming's other monarch pets. After the battle, Senior Lu quickly won the battle at the monarch level. Then, with the support of the monarch pet, Senior Lu quickly took back her advantage and advanced to 5th place. From then on, Dong Huang's sequence ranking stabilized. Shi Yu, the number 1 person below the legendary level, was reflected in the ranking. He was really the number 1 person below the legendary level. Regarding this, most beast tamers were also very regretful. They didn't understand why Shi Yu ignored Zhu Ming's challenge. Did he think that his strength wasn't enough to face a legend, or was there something he had to do? There were various opinions on the internet. Some felt that Shi Yu wasn't ready to face a legend, while others felt that Shi Yu might be able to fight a legend above his level. However, as a busy person, he might not necessarily be able to take care of the 10th sequence ranking competition system. When he was free, he would definitely fight back. Shi Yu didn't care much about these claims. Instead, he was focused on adding points to Mythical Revival. Now, Ling's Mythical Revival had already been raised to Proficient +1 by Shi Yu. He had added a total of 3 points. Every time Shi Yu taught the Mythical Revival, Ling's Kirin form would have more divine power. And after entering the Mythical Revival state, Ling's energy level could also exceed 20 million. If Shi Yu wasn't wrong, when Ling's Mythical Revival proficiency reached the proficiency of Senior Lu's pets, its energy level would be comparable to an overlord with a monarch. It shouldn't be a problem to exceed 50 million. Firstly, Ling's foundation was stronger than Senior Lu's pets, and secondly, Senior Lu's pets' divine power might not be as pure as the Wind Kirin's divine bloodline. After all, Ling had completed its evolution through the Wind Kirin fossil, while Senior Lu's pet had only changed part of its bloodline and didn't successfully evolve with divine power. Shi Yu was naturally very happy that the strength of the youngest in the team had finally caught up. However, it had yet to master the Wind Blessing through Mythical Revival, which gave Shi Yu a headache. The reason why he didn't add points to 11 Superalloy and ran over to prioritize the Mythical Revival first was because he hoped that Ling could awaken a quasi-divine skill as soon as possible. If he had the providence of a quasi-divine skill, whatever he did next might be smoother. However, the delay in awakening finally made Shi Yu decide that if the Mythical Revival didn't cause a qualitative change after reaching expert level, he would do Superalloy first. Senior Shi Yu, I'm ready. At Ancient Capital University, under Shi Yu's dormitory, and Cheng, who had returned from Divine Capital, held his cell phone and called for Shi Yu. Wait a second. Shi Yu hung up and packed up, preparing to set off for Dragon Palace City. He had previously promised Senior Lu to go to Tingxiang together in nearly a month. It wasn't time yet, so Shi Yu planned to bring An Chang to Dragon Palace City to take a look. It was just waiting for Senior over there. When the time came, everyone would go by sea. Apart from that, Shi Yu definitely had a goal. He also planned to train Buggy. Firstly, he would let it visualize the Dragon God statue in the Dragon God ruins more before the World Tournament. Secondly, Dragon Palace City had many powerful overlords, much more than Dong Huang. With his position in Dragon Palace City, it shouldn't be difficult for him to find a bunch of overlords to be sparring partners. It could also be considered to be preparing in advance for the World Tournament. In Dragon Palace City, there were top-notch overlords and even invincible overlords comparable to totems. According to what Shi Yu knew, the Crown Prince of Dragon Palace City was an invincible overlord whose strength was not inferior to the tyrannical sea legend, the giant Leviathan. It could fight against totems. Let's go. After packing, Shi Yu came downstairs and looked at An Chang, who was already taller and stronger than him as if he had been injected with hormones. He was slightly silent. Wasn't this kid quite weak at the start? Why was he so strong? Fusion talent was really strange. You've gotten fatter, Shiyu said. And Chang. Fat? Ah. Perhaps it's because I ate more, and Chang scratched his head in embarrassment. Shiyu smiled and said, relax. Next, I'm going to put you into the ruin space. When we reach Dragon Palace City, I'll let you out. This is faster. All right. And Chang nodded. I won't let you be idle either, Shiyu said. In order to test your strength, there's my second team's pets in the ruin space. Fight it after you enter. Team 2 pets? And Chang was surprised. Senior Shiyu had already started training Team 2. That made sense. With the gift of telepathy and the portable ruin space, in addition to being very powerful and rich, it was normal for him to have the energy to nurture the second team. Yes, a duckbill beast. When Shiyu finished speaking, and Chang was even more shocked. Wait, duckbill beast? Wasn't the duckbill beast a pet of a transcendent race? And Chang fell into deep thought. When he was put into the ruin space and saw the duckbill beast waiting for him in front of him, he was even more certain that his judgment was right. At the same time, he was puzzled. Why would Senior Shiyu contract a transcendent race to be the second team? Chapter 755, 755 The first quasi-divine skill in the team, 3. 755 The first quasi-divine skill in the team, 3. With Senior Shiyu's strength, it should be easy for him to find an Overlord cub. Quack! Now that it had relied on its Overlord will and battle experience to break through the racial restrictions, the Commander Rank Duck looked at the new sparring partner Shiyu had sent and frowned slightly. Hello. And Chang also looked at the duckbill beast nervously. He confirmed that it was an ordinary duckbill beast. However, he didn't dare to underestimate it. After all, Shiyu was a very powerful man who could even nurture pets like the iron-eating beast, green silkworm, baby ginseng, and slime. It was normal for a duckbill beast to be very strong. Quack! As he couldn't understand the duck's words, and Chang quickly took out the top-notch mechanical equipment rewarded by Ancient Capital University, a mechanical equipment that connected ears and eyes like a battle power detector. This was a type of spiritual sensing equipment that could allow beast tamers who couldn't use telepathy to understand some of the language of transcendent creatures. It was considered a very high-level mechanical equipment. Even master-level beast tamers would find it difficult to afford it. However, Ancient Capital University was rich this year. It could be said to be very generous to geniuses, especially the geniuses Shiyu had named and taken care of. Quack! You're in Chang. Duck looked at this weak human compared to Shiyu and said, Senior Duckbill Beast, I'm in Chang. And Chang nodded crazily. At the same time, the information about the duckbill beast appeared on the lens. Named Duckbill Beast. Attributes, Water. Race level, High Transcendent. Level of growth, Commander. Race skill, Water Blade, Heart Strike. Energy points, 29,998. As expected. As expected of Senior Shiyu. Although this second team pet looked ordinary, its growth level had already broken through the racial level restriction. Moreover, as a transcendent race, Commander rank, its energy level was already comparable to most Commander rank races. However, he felt that he could fight. And Chang was especially grateful to Shiyu at this moment. This was because under the butterfly god's blessing, his green cocoon had already successfully evolved. Low-level Overlord race, White Star Phoenix Butterfly. In addition, with the help of the Sea Dragon's fusion talent, it might be able to fight above its level. The standard of an intermediate beast tamer was that they could fight commanders above their level. And Chang had naturally reached it long ago. Now, as the green cocoon evolved, there was even less pressure. Moreover, it was mainly because Senior Duck. It looked pretty harmless. It reminded him of the Imperial Capital roast duck he had just finished eating the day before yesterday. Quack! Then come on. Duck was about to vomit from fighting Little G and the green silkworm cocoon phantom all day. It was good to change its taste. Although it felt that Chang's strength was not much, Shiyu had introduced him after all. He shouldn't be too weak. Ducky thought for a moment and directly entered its second form. It was better to take it more seriously. In the next moment, it looked at Chang and its body suddenly increased to 2 meters. Its blue skin began to be covered in black, leaving only a portion of dark blue patterns. At its neck, the black water froze like a ribbon, becoming a scarf-like part that floated behind it. In just a short moment, the image of the duckbill beast changed completely. The terrifying aura emitted made the originally relaxed Chang's expression change drastically. The duckbill beast's deep red eyes opened and it looked at Chang. At this moment, Chang's spirit seemed to have fallen into an abyss. In an instant, cold sweat flowed out of his entire body. He was so frightened that he took a step back and sensed an extremely terrifying evil aura. Name? Energy points, 74,747. Quack! Come, I'll warm up with my weaker form first and see how your strength is. Chang? In the past few months, the duck had been eating the abyss reincarnation bin cultivated by baby ginseng. Every time it ate it, it could awaken a portion of the abyss power. At first, it was indeed very difficult to control, but as baby ginseng reduced the amount of medicine in the abyss reincarnation bean, and as Susu let the duck understand the full-level cleansing water through the memory water drop, it could gradually control the abyss power in this body. Therefore, Ducky obtained 2 new forms. The first was in the current state. It was relatively easy to receive a portion of the power of the abyss. With this state, it could barely fight small opportunities of overlord races and commander ranks. There was also a final form that received stronger abyssal power, but it was relatively difficult to control. It needed to cooperate with the overlord's will. It would be extremely tired after the battle, so Ducky rarely used it. Most importantly, it couldn't defeat the green cocoon phantom even if it used it. Although it had only received a portion of the abyssal power now, it depended on whose abyssal power it was. In its previous life, as a demigod expert, Ducky's aura was still very terrifying, immediately making Chang a little absent-minded. It condensed a black water spear and stabbed it into the ground, indicating that the boy opposite should quickly send out his pet. Wait, senior duckbill beast, what are you doing? If you're teaching newbies, isn't that initial form enough? Chang panicked. Why could the duckbill beast still transform? As expected, the textbooks weren't trustworthy. Ducky? At this moment, Shiyu had already shouted for Ling to transform into its Kirin form and fly 10,000 meters in the sky. Shiyu originally wanted to enter the ruins and arrange for Ducky to fight Chang, but as a busy person, he had never been free. Just as he was about to set off for Dragon Palace City, he received a call from the Tyrannical Sea Legend. Senior Yu, what's wrong? Tyrannical Sea Legend, Legend Jisrong of the Phoenix Court of the 7 Islands Phoenix God Shrine and Legend Jie of the Phoenix Court are coming to Donghuang in a while. They should want to see you. Are you free? Chapter 756, 756 The First Quasi-Divine Skill in the Team, 4. 756 The First Quasi-Divine Skill in the Team, 4. Shiyu had a bitter expression. Why didn't he say so in advance? He was about to go to Dragon Palace City. Wait, the Phoenix Court's Jie also passed the legend assessment. Shiyu discovered the problem. The Tyrannical Sea Legend said, probably. She became the new legend of the 7 Islands. Therefore, it wasn't easy for them to come to Donghuang this time. The 7 Islands gave many obstructions. Perhaps because the incident of a Red God attacking the Phoenix Divine Master at that time also made the Phoenix God Society have some ill feelings towards the 7 Islands, so Donghuang's intention is to see if they can persuade the 2 of them to bring the Phoenix God Society to join Donghuang. As the designated heir of the Phoenix Mystic Realm, you might have a way. Donghuang had always welcomed the immigration of such high-end talents. Even the other countries were poaching each other. Of course, if it were those lazy and useless foreign trash beast tamers who liked to point fingers, Donghuang naturally wouldn't accept it. If anyone could enter, Donghuang wouldn't be the #1 country now. Shi Yu was vexed and said, well, let them be guests in the ancient capital first. Senior Lu and Principal Feng know the history mentioned by the undying Dark Phoenix. Let them receive them first. I'm going to Dragon Palace City now. I have something to do. I'll go back after I'm done. Sure, they haven't come yet anyway. The tyrannical sea legend nodded. This time, the two legends of the Phoenix Court shouldn't leave in the short term. After chatting for a while, Shi Yu and the tyrannical sea legend ended the call. Then, Shi Yu fell into deep thought. The Phoenix Shrine really came. He just didn't know if Donghuang could be deceived. Forget it. Shi Yu entered the ruins, but the moment he entered, he saw the normal duck revealing a lonely expression as an expert, as well as An Chang, the sea dragon, and the white star phoenix butterfly lying on the ground covered in injuries like a dead dog. Wu An Chang lay on the ground with his hands and feet twitching, his face filled with sorrow. Why was this duckbill beast so strong after returning to its normal state? It was different from the commander rank it had fought before with about 30,000 energy points. It was as if it had experienced hundreds of battles and was extremely experienced, like a master playing with a child. Quack! After fusing with the pet, this guy can't fight as well as Shi Yu could by himself, the duck sighed. It looked like it had overestimated this kid. Looks like your cultivation isn't good enough. Shi Yu looked at An Chang and fell into deep thought. Why couldn't he even defeat pets that had never been given points? This couldn't do. When he arrived at Dragon Palace City, he had to train well. Dragon Palace City. First, they flew in the air on Ling, then dived into the sea through Susu. It didn't take Shi Yu and the others long to arrive here. Previously, if he wanted to come to Dragon Palace City, Shi Yu either had to let the tyrannical sea legend bring him or the gem cat. But now, he himself had the ability to come to Dragon Palace City. Dragon Palace City didn't know at all that Shi Yu had come to Dragon Palace City this time. He didn't inform them in advance, so when he arrived, the Dragon Palace army in charge of guarding the mystic realm of Dragon Palace City was very shocked. They didn't expect Minister Shi Yu to come at this time. However, Shi Yu was also considered a higher-up of Dragon Palace City. He even had his own palace in Dragon Palace City. Coming to Dragon Palace City was like coming to his home. He loved this place very much. After entering Dragon Palace City, Shi Yu was not in a hurry to go home. Instead, he visited Mother Dragon first. Why are you here, kid? In the Ice Dragon Palace, the Frost Dragon looked at Shi Yu with disdain. Nothing good would happen when Shi Yu came. I missed you, so I came to take a look, Shi Yu said with a smile. Stop being cheeky. If you have something to say, let it go quickly. It's delaying my cultivation, Ice Dragon said. It's not a big deal. I just want to go to Tingxiang to play for a few days later. Mother Dragon, isn't your hometown over there? Do you want to travel for a few days? The gem cat will also go. The Frost Dragon was just about to refuse and say that it wasn't free, but it suddenly recalled Shi Yu's gains on the 7 islands. 1 mythical and 2 legendary. Back then, when Shi Yu went to the 7 islands, he had also invited it. It rejected him and regretted it later. After all, Shi Yu's ability to find resources was top-notch. This time, Shi Yu was going to Tingxiang to cause trouble again? Well, let me think. I'll give you an answer later, the Frost Dragon said, not in a hurry to refuse. All right. Shi Yu smiled and said, I still have something to do with Senior Sea Dragon King. Then I'll go over there first. Go, go, go. Next, Shi Yu came to the Sea Dragon King's Dragon Palace, but he was told by the Turtle Prime Minister that the Sea Dragon King had brought the little white dragon out to train. But he should be back in the next 2 days. Shi Yu? What else could Shi Yu do? He could only wait. This time, he returned to his palace in Dragon Palace City. As for An Chang, he was in the ruins. It wasn't a big problem to let the duckbill beast and Little G train for 2 days. With him providing supplements and recovery items and being able to cultivate in the ruins, the effect would not be bad. Then, when the Sea Dragon King returned, it would help the Sea Dragon purify its bloodline and evolve. It would be enough. Shiyu recuperated again and waited for the next mythical revival to add points. Only Buggy was released by Shiyu and was sent to the Dragon God statue in the Dragon God ruins to cultivate. At the moment, Shiyu and Buggy were the only outsiders allowed by the Dragon God to go to the Dragon God ruins through the Dragon God Palace. It wasn't the first time Buggy had gone over itself, so it wasn't a big problem. Chapter 757, 757 The first quasi-divine skill in the team, 5. 757 The first quasi-divine skill in the team, 5. Even if the Dragon God discovered it, nothing would happen. However, the situation was a little different this time. Dragon God Palace. At this moment, apart from the peerless Dragon God, there was actually a humanoid woman whose appearance was not inferior to the Dragon God. She had sharp ears, long green hair that draped over her shoulders, golden eyes, a queen-shaped baby face, a delicate figure, skin, and huge natural charm. Her aura was extremely transcendent. Tien, a little guy seemed to have passed by your palace just now, the green-haired woman said lazily. Don't worry about it. The Dragon God shook her head and also discovered the passing worm. She understood that Shiyu had come to Dragon Palace City again. She had indeed given Shiyu and Buggy the right to visualize and cultivate at the Dragon God statue. A butterfly? And among monarchs, it's considered very strong. It shouldn't be a member of your Dragon Palace City, right? Well, a pet of a human junior from Dong Huang. SYL, continue talking about what happened just now. The Dragon God looked at the Elven Empress from Tingxiang, an expert who was also a demigod-level life form like her. Very few people knew that the Dragon God and the Elven Queen, Silphra, were actually good friends. Alright, but I really didn't expect your Dragon Palace City to choose not to participate in this world competition. I thought you would cooperate with Dong Huang. Silphra smiled. Since you're not participating, help me. Let the few young people in our Tingxiang come to your Dragon Palace City to train and accumulate experience dealing with the dragons. Or you can let your overlords travel to Tingxiang. I'll treat them well. The reason why the Dragon God and the Elven Empress had a good relationship was also because their relationship with the Western Totem faction, the Dragon Empire, was not very good. As for why the relationship between Tingxiang and the Dragon Empire was not good, it was because the Western legend said that the legendary beast tamer, the Dragon Hunter, was from Tingxiang. The main reason why the Elven Empress descended this time was to discuss with her good friend about the mythical era that might approach next. 2 days later. In the legendary ruins of Shiyu's palace. Shiyu looked at the gradually disappearing cooldown time and heaved a sigh of relief. Then, he looked at the cube in front of him. At this moment, Ling analyzed and said, according to calculations, the first qualitative change will occur when mythical revival reaches expert level. It's very likely to make the dream memory clearer, and it's very likely to awaken the quasi-divine skill, Wind Blessing. Stop talking, come on. Shiyu couldn't wait anymore. He directly pinched the cube in front of him and started to add points. Ling's analysis was right. After adding points this time, the recovery of the divine power in its body was even stronger than before. As he was immersed in endless pain, Ling sensed the change in the Kirin fossil. Soon, an incomparably huge surprise appeared in Ling and Shiyu's minds. Quasi-divine skill, Wind Blessing, Awakening. As Shiyu upgraded the mythical revival skill to expert level, the quasi-divine skill, the Wind Blessing that Ling couldn't awaken when it evolved previously, was finally going to awaken this time. Both Shiyu and Ling were extremely excited. They knew what this meant. This meant that Ling could directly jump from a quasi-mythical race to a mythical race and obtain potential comparable to those demigods. When it awakened the Wind Blessing, Ling directly returned to its Wind Kirin form. Its perfect form appeared again. The entire legendary ruin was affected by it at this moment. The sky and ground were white, and a light breeze circled. At this moment, 11, Baby Ginseng, Kai Tong, Susu, and the others, who were also in the legendary ruin, had their expressions suddenly change as they sensed the suppression from their bloodlines. Even at this moment, the tyrant dragon, the duckbill beast, and even An Chang and the others in the ruins widened their eyes in shock. They sensed indescribable power fluctuations that enveloped the world, making it difficult to breathe. Dong! At this moment, it was as if the legendary ruins had trembled, and an incomparably deep sound of worldly laws appeared. The spatial power and natural power in the space were all suppressed, and it was no different from the abnormality of the quasi-divine skill described by Senior Ji Mengzhu. In fact, forget about the legendary ruins, even the few islands around the island where Shiyu lived felt an indescribable pressure as Ling awakened its quasi-divine skill and crossed the line to the mythical race. The dragons looked at the sky in shock. This pressure shocked them, even more so than the Dragon King's pressure. Although it wasn't strong, the texture made some overlord dragons recall some memories. Yes, this was the feeling when they saw the Dragon God. Has Lord Dragon God come out of seclusion? Most of the dragons looked at the sky in shock. The further away from Shiyu, the harder it was to sense this divine pressure. However, for true experts, it was not difficult to sense this same power even from countless layers of space. In the Dragon God Palace, the Dragon God and the Elven Empress were still chatting freely. Suddenly, their expressions changed slightly as they looked into the distance. Tian, this is, Silphra looked surprised. The Dragon God also looked confused. How was that possible? There were actually creatures in Dragon Palace City who could come into contact with the God domain like them demigods? Those totem dragon kings? No, with their aptitude, it was impossible. There's a life form that cultivated the prototype of a divine skill in Dragon Palace City. The Dragon God and the Elven Empress made a judgment at the same time. However, it didn't look like a life form had broken through to the demigod level, but like a mythical cub had descended. The two demigods quickly left the Dragon God Palace. Then, they saw a blue butterfly flying back awkwardly and anxiously. It looked at them. Buggy? Chapter 758, 758 The Power of a Quasi-Divine Skill, 1. 758 The Power of a Quasi-Divine Skill, 1. Following the nomological fluctuations of the quasi-divine skill, the Dragon God and the Elven Empress descended on the island where Shiyu was. The island Shiyu was on was called Blue Sea Island. It was specially modified for him to live as the Minister of the Environmental Protection Department, Shiyu. Of course, a big shot like the Dragon God had naturally never paid attention to this kind of thing from the beginning to the end. It was all planned by the Ice Dragon King's Turtle Prime Minister, so the Dragon God didn't know whose territory this island was. This island was not big, and the environment was very beautiful. It was cleansed to the point where there was not a trace of dirt. Even the Elven Empress, a natural sprite who controlled the forest and wind, discovered that this island was different from the other islands in Dragon Palace City. The owner of this island definitely had misophobia. The other party is in an alternate space. Although Blue Sea Island didn't look lifeless at this moment, after reaching the demigod level, these experts had already mastered very strong spatial attainments. Be it the Dragon God or the Elven Empress, they instantly determined that the other party was in the deep space of the Dragon Palace mystic realm. And it's not just a simple alternate space, the Elven Empress, Silphra, said. With her perception, even ordinary totems probably couldn't forcefully enter this space. The spatial level was relatively high. It was a legendary spatial mystic realm. Of course, for them, shattering a legendary space was already easy. Standing in the sky and sensing the weak law fluctuations that contained the power of time and space, the Dragon God Tian Li and the Elven Empress Silphra stretched out their hands together, wanting to forcefully enter the alternate space to investigate. During this process, the Dragon God was slightly stunned and felt a strange wave. Because it sensed traces of its own strength in this deep space. Although it was isolated by the legendary space and its perception was very vague, it shouldn't be wrong. Woo! 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 Just as the Dragon God and Silphra were preparing to enter the mystic realm, Buggy, who had just met the Dragon God and the Elven Empress but was quickly ignored by the two demigods, also rushed back crazily. At this moment, seeing the two super experts eyeing this area covetously, Buggy swallowed its saliva crazily and said, "Seniors, wait. Buggy called out to the two demigods through telepathy, afraid that they would suddenly barge in and affect Shiyu's points. "It's the little worm just now," the Elven Emperor said in surprise when she saw Buggy. "I see." Seeing that Buggy was also flying to this place, the dragon god was slightly stunned. She suddenly understood everything. From the looks of it, the one in the deep space should be Shiyu. That human who had contracted the blue sea sprite reincarnation. Initially, the dragon god was still wondering what was going on, but this explained it clearly. It looked like the blue sea sprite reincarnation had begun to awaken the abilities of its previous life. Although she didn't know much about the blue sea sprite, as an outstanding figure among demigods, it wasn't strange for it to master quasi-divine skills in advance. "I know what's going on." The dragon god calmly dispersed her power. Beside her, Silphra said in surprise, "What do you mean?" "Wait a minute," the dragon god said. "The person inside is the beast tamer of this butterfly, the human junior I mentioned previously. Perhaps his pet is awakening a quasi-divine skill." Silphra was even more surprised. "You mean, the pet of a human beast tamer has mastered a quasi-divine skill?" She was very surprised and couldn't help but be surprised. This was because at the moment, in the entire blue planet, there were very few lives who were still alive who had mastered quasi-divine skills. The one she knew wouldn't be more than 10. These experts stood at the top of Blue Planet. Even if a legendary beast tamer went all out, they might not necessarily be able to defeat them. Even if it was a peak-level human legendary beast tamer, the pets they contracted were basically ordinary totems, or some top-notch totems, not totem half-gods. For example, she, the legendary beast tamer in charge of Tingxiang, had contracted 9 nature sprites. Even legendary beast tamers found it very difficult to contract pets with mythical potential that had mastered quasi-divine skills. It was the same for her, and so were the beast tamers of the other 6 countries. It was the same for those legendary beast tamers who had left behind various legendary experiences in history. Legendary beast tamers versus demigod-level life forms was enough to prove the power of quasi-divine skills. And now, the dragon god was actually telling her that there was a human beast tamer's pet that had mastered a quasi-divine skill? Yes. The dragon god nodded. Previously, she was still wondering why the blue sea sprite reincarnation chose a human. But from the looks of it, Shiyu seemed to have done very well. It had only been a short while, but he had already helped the reincarnation of the blue sea sprite that had yet to recover its strength after 3,000 years. It looked like the blue sea ruins left behind by the blue sea sprite still had some taste. At this moment, through a layer of space, Buggy could also communicate with Shiyu telepathically. This was the power of the telepathy talent. If it were other talents, they definitely wouldn't be able to. They wouldn't be able to chat with pets across servers. In the legendary ruins, baby Ginseng nursed Shiyu. They looked at Ling, who was surrounded by the wind of space, and swallowed crazily. "Wind blessing. Divine skill of luck. From now on, I have become rich. I'm looking forward to betting on the fusion skill more and more. Hey, the dragon god is here. Oh no, is the awakening wave of the quasi-divine skill so strong?" Shiyu was immediately stunned when he heard Buggy shout outside. Chapter 759, 759 The Power of a Quasi-Divine Skill, 2. 759 The Power of a Quasi-Divine Skill, 2. At the same time, Buggy also reminded that apart from the dragon god, there was also a beautiful sister who looked very, very strong. It looked like an elf. Shiyu had a headache and felt that it was troublesome. After all, there was such a big reaction to awakening a quasi-divine skill through a legendary ruin. No matter what, he had to find a wilderness to awaken before coming to Dragon Palace City. However, it wasn't a big problem. The dragon god was one of them, and even the Kirin fossil was from Dragon Palace City. This time, Ling could directly acknowledge them as family. Shiyu was excited. In the outside world, spatial ripples appeared. Shiyu directly came out of the legendary sealed ruins and looked at the dragon god in the sky and the beautiful big sister mentioned by Buggy. She was indeed very beautiful. She was the only existence Shiyu had seen whose appearance was not inferior to the dragon god. In an instant, Shiyu determined the other party's identity. Senior Dragon God. Elven Empress. Shiyu was rather shocked. He didn't expect the legendary of Tingxiang to appear in Dragon Palace City. The Elven Empress was a half-elf. Her human bloodline dominated. Not only did she master extraordinary abilities, but she could also open up the beast-taming space and contract pets like human beast tamers. She could be said to be very powerful. Just now, your pet awakened a quasi-divine skill, right? The dragon god slowly landed on the ground and said to Shiyu. Can you summon it and take a look? Shiyu hesitated for a moment. He didn't know the relationship between the Elven Empress and the dragon god, but from the looks of it, the dragon god didn't care that the Elven Empress was beside him. It seemed that the relationship between Dong Huang and Tingxiang was not bad. In that case, Shiyu nodded. A purple summoning array appeared. Accompanied by a green and white whirlwind, a white creature with a deer-like body and a light and slender body slowly appeared. At that moment, when they saw this creature, its sheep head, deer body, and dragon tail, as well as its elegant and beautiful body that was like the embodiment of wind, the expressions of the dragon god and the Elven Empress changed slightly. The reason why the dragon god and the Elven Empress had a good relationship was also related to the fact that they were both wind element life forms. Others might be unfamiliar with the creature in front of them, but for transcendent life forms like them, who stood at the top of the wind element, they instantly saw the wind laws lingering around it through Ling's Kirin form. Mythical race, Wind Kirin. At this moment, the Elven Empress was the first to speak in disbelief. She was shocked to the extreme. How was this possible? Didn't the Kirin race go completely extinct in the mythical era? Of course, at this moment, the dragon god was also extremely confused. Wait a minute, why wasn't it that blue sea sprite? Where did this Wind Kirin come from? This was completely different from what she had judged just now. The dragon god was silent for a moment. Fortunately, she didn't say too much to Sylphra just now. Woo, the two demigods were shocked. The worm in the sky was also shocked with tears in its eyes. It also sensed Ling's current strength. This didn't make sense. As the last pet to enter the team, how could it be so strong? Named Ling. Race, mechanical beast. Race level, low level mythical. Level of growth, monarch level. Race skill. Super level, wind element control, expert +11, divine net, expert +11, turning misfortune into luck, expert, wind spirit bead, initiate. Quasi-god level skill, wind blessing, initiate. Teaching skill. Super level, mythical revival, expert. Energy points, 20.02 million. Woo! What was this surprise? Buggy had tears in its eyes. It felt that the team was getting more and more uncomfortable. Wind Kirin? The dragon god also followed the Elven Empress and looked at Shiyu. No, it's not completely a Wind Kirin, Shiyu said. This is a mechanical phantom beast we developed with the Wind Kirin fossil through the power of imagination, the power of time, the power of life and death, and the power of machinery. Compared to the true mythical race, the Wind Kirin, it should still be lacking in some aspects. Dragon god? The Elven Empress? Shiyu. At this moment, the Elven Empress of Tingxiang finally knew who this young man in front of her was. During this period, there were also exchanges between Dong Huang and Tingxiang. In Tingxiang, although the mechanical field was far inferior to countries like Shenfeng, Dong Huang, and Shui Yuan, as the current strongest department, mechanics were also paid attention to no matter where they were. The Elven Empress naturally knew that a genius mechanic from Dong Huang had researched the mechanical phantom beast system. However, she didn't expect that the genius mechanic was the young man in front of her who was in the Dragon Palace and had contracted a mythical race. The mechanical phantom beast system could actually revive the extinct myth. Originally, Tingxiang valued the mechanical phantom beast system, but the Elven Empress never expected this technology to be ridiculous to this extent. You've mastered the ability to revive myths? The dragon god realized that she had still underestimated this human young man who had contracted the blue sea sprite reincarnation. She had witnessed the growth of the Dragon Emperor, the Space Emperor, the Mechanical Legendary, the Evolution Legendary, and many other Dong Huang Legendaries along the way. At this moment, the dragon god felt that she was about to witness a new legendary star slowly rising. Dong Huang's luck was really powerful. A beast tamer with legendary aptitude would appear in every era. Even when Shiyu had contracted the blue sea sprite reincarnation, he didn't manage to give the dragon god any greater shock than this. Chapter 760 The Power of a Quasi-Divine Skill, 3. 760 The Power of a Quasi-Divine Skill, 3. Not really. It's mainly because this wind Kirin fossil is relatively intact. It came from the dragon god mystic realm and was given to me by the Sea Dragon King. I've also come into contact with other mythical fossils, but only one has the conditions to revive, Shiyu said. The Elven Empress looked at the dragon god. No wonder the dragon god knew what was going on. So this new mythical race was a member of Dragon Palace City? The mechanical phantom beast system actually had the participation of Dragon Palace City. Congratulations! The Elven Empress smiled and said, unfortunately, it's not a dragon. Otherwise, the candidate for the next dragon god of Dragon Palace City can be confirmed in advance. Is that so? The dragon god shook her head. Forget it, after being shocked, the dragon god recovered her calm. Compared to this, she was still more curious about whether Shiyu could crack the spatial ruins left behind by the time sprite. So be it if it was a Kirin. It wasn't important anymore. But from the looks of it, if this wind Kirin grew to the overlord level, Shiyu, who planned to participate in the world competition, would have a high chance of winning the championship. She looked at Shiyu. The Elven Empress suddenly realized this and felt a headache for her contestants. Although the Elven Empress didn't think that her contestants had the talent to win the championship and obtain the blessings of the World Tree, hoping that they could gain more growth during the participation process, it was still a little uncomfortable to have seen this spoiler of the outcome in advance. Mythical race. In the previous world competitions, there had never been such a ridiculous battle pet. If it were the previous world competition, the mythical race's overlord level pet would definitely have locked onto the champion's throne. However, this time, although it was still very advantageous, the Elven Empress couldn't figure out the specific situation. Although Dragon Palace City rejected participating in the world competition, demigod-level factions like the Dragon Empire, the Dark Knight Forest, the Demon Kingdom, and the Arctic Snowfield responded. Although these demigod factions might not be able to take out mythical pets, they probably could let their legend beast tamers contract invincible overlords and their special talent legendary hybrid beast tamers contract totems above their level at all costs. Therefore, the Elven Empress felt that this world competition might be the most difficult and cruel one. What's its skill? However, out of curiosity, the dragon god still asked Shiyu about the quasi-divine skill of the wind Kirin. Regarding this, Shiyu replied, Wind Blessing. It can use the wind of nature to increase luck. Not a battle-type skill, but a luck-type skill? The dragon god was stunned. Isn't it a battle-type? The Elven Empress was also slightly surprised. In that case, the battle power of this wind Kirin would be greatly reduced. However, luck-type quasi-divine skills were also very good. At their level, they naturally knew that ethereal things like luck really existed and were very important. Especially for a country's faction, the fate of the country was abnormally important. In an instant, the Elven Empress was rather envious of Dong Huang. If Shiyu was a beast tamer from Tingxiang, she would definitely nurture such a beast tamer as an heir no matter what. Coupled with quasi-divine skills like luck, he could probably make a big country prosper for thousands of years. But skills that increase luck shouldn't be completely useless in battle and war, right? Silphra smiled and looked at the dragon god. Can I let this little friend fight a battle to see? I'm a little curious about this ability. Dragon god Chen Li said, you can ask him yourself. Silvera turned to look at Shiyu and said, little guy, can I? Shiyu was silent for a moment before looking at Ling. Who was he fighting? All right, but we can't say for sure if we have mastered this wind blessing skill, because this move can originally bless other lives, but from the looks of it, it shouldn't be able to control this move yet. It seems that it can only increase its luck. Most of the time, it's a passive skill. Moreover, who are we fighting? Shiyu looked around and looked at Buggy. It seemed to be the only one. Buggy? Experimental worm. It's all right. I just want to prove some guesses. As for the battle target, the Elven Empress looked into the distance and said, "You're pretty lucky. A suitable guy happened to come. Looks like the skill is effective?" The Elven Empress smiled and said, "In that case, follow the guidance of the wind." Wu tilde 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 in the distance, the third prince, the little white dragon, who had just come out of the ruins to train, immediately ran over to find Shiyu after hearing from the Turtle Prime Minister that Shiyu had come to Dragon Palace City to visit the Sea Dragon King. Previously, it and its father weren't around, but now that it was done, Shiyu could go as a guest at any time. It had come this time to invite Shiyu. However, just as it approached Blue Sea Island, the little white dragon's happy expression stopped. It realized that something was wrong with the situation on Blue Sea Island. After it flew close to the core area of Blue Sea Island, it immediately widened its eyes and looked at the situation below. Shiyu, an Lord Dragon God. Damn, why was the Dragon God here? Third Prince? Shiyu also looked at the little white dragon in surprise. Name a white azure dragon. Energy points, 6.99 million. The little white dragon's strength progress was pretty good. At this moment, the little white dragon, who had originally come to look for Shiyu happily, was immediately stunned when it realized that the atmosphere here was solemn. Not only was the dragon god here, but there was also a female human who had the same pressure as the dragon god.